The Lord be with you. A woman named Linda Newcraig was vacationing with a friend in Canada, and she was not having a good time. She struggled with the language barrier. She couldn't make sense of the money. The weather was cold. She felt out of place. Linda's friend, noticing her discomfort, suggested that she look to the travel guide for advice. On one page of the travel guide, Linda's friend had underlined these words: when you travel, expect things to be different. And if things are not to your liking, change your liking. These words reminded Linda that she was in control of her attitude, and she could choose how she approached each new situation. Years ago, I sat with my grandfather on the front porch of our family's house at Lake Junaluska. I was in seminary and was bound for ministry in our South Carolina annual conference. Grandpapa looked at me and he said the darndest thing: Steve, there is no good appointment in the entire South Carolina conference. What? This man had served every kind of church there is to serve: big churches, little churches, big steeple churches, no steeple churches. He had served as the editor of the Advocate, and he had even been a district superintendent. And he was telling me that there are no good churches, no good appointments in the entire South Carolina conference? Well, he must have misunderstood my confusion for slowness, because he repeated it again. There is no good appointment in the entire conference, not one. If you want a good appointment, you have to make it a good appointment. It is still a wise word I try to remember in life. He was sharing with me the same lesson Linda learned. I am in control of my attitude. I can choose how I will approach each new situation. I would call what he said good advice, but it is so much more than just good advice. I recently met a man named Chris. I told you about Chris. We had him on our prayer list for weeks. He had a wife, a house full of kids, and he also had inoperable brain cancer. Then came the day of his resurrection. He told me and a few others, I'm going to be with God. Please pray for my family. Isn't that amazing? A man in what everyone would call dire straits, and his heart is not for himself. It's for his family. It's for others. Chris was a man who was in control of his attitude, and his attitude was full of God's love and God's grace. He was surrounded by great friends. It sounded like he went to a great church. Chris certainly knew he served a great God. And with brain cancer, he chose to see the goodness and the glory which covered and cloaked him to the very end, or in his case, to the very beginning. And I do pray for his family, and I hope you will too. His attitude was a miracle. Sometimes I fear that we are like the bus driver who complains about the route the bus is taking, or the cook who complains about the quality of the food being served, or the preacher who complains that the sermons just aren't powerful enough. Allow me to rephrase what my grandfather shared with me. In all the world, there is no such thing as a good life. If you want a good life, you have to make it one. Like I said, so much more than just good advice. I can live my life looking for miracles, and so can you. How can we do that? We can do that because we know that every miracle Jesus ever performed began with a problem. And that knowledge gives us the power to choose our attitude. Can't walk? It's miracle time. Can't see? It's miracle time. Church needs to grow? It's miracle time. Family stressed to its breaking point? Look for that miracle. Health issues stealing your peace? You have an appointment with a miracle. If goodness and godliness is the attitude you choose, a miracle might just be on the way. And the greatest miracle of all just might be our attitude. It's not what happens to us in life that defines who we are. It's what we do with those things in faith that defines who we are. When it comes to attitude, choose well. Amen.